All right.
But it was so simple.
So before we call the meeting officially to order, I know we're 1 minute before 7, but this is kind of a full agenda, so we'll do this little lead up at 1 minute before 7 and save ourselves 1 minute, and that will be good on the other end. So we do have a full agenda tonight. We have 2 public hearings that we're going to take care of. We also have 2 presentations scheduled, one from our Finance Director, Brian Ailes, and our City ARPA Manager, Jamie Corliss, as well as one from Tim Flaherty, who is here now as the Director of the YMCA, instead of being up here with us. Tim, nice to see you on the other side over here. We also have, as I said, 2 public hearings. We have a citizen speaker who would like to address us. And then we have a number of communications from the mayor as well as other city officers and boards. Take a break for some committee work, and then we'll come back here to wrap it all up. And we'll try to keep everything moving along to respect everyone's time. Sound good? And Kim is ready. So with that, call to order this regular meeting of the Beverly City Council, Tuesday, February 22nd. I almost said Monday. Tuesday, February 22nd, 7 p.m. Ms. Kent, will you please call the roll?
Bowen? Here. Crowley?
Here.
Feldman? Houseman? Rand?
Here.
Rotundo?
Here.
St. Hilaire?
Here.
Sweeney?
Here.
And Flowers.
Here. Thank you very much. Councillor Sweeney, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, everyone. Before we begin with our first presentation, I do just want to take a moment to acknowledge that His Honor the Mayor is here with us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being here, as well as I see Ward 6 School Committee member Lorinda Visnick is here with us. Thanks for joining us, Ms. Visnick. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And our first presentation is, as I said, from our Finance Director, Brian Ailes, and our City ARPA Fund Manager, Jamie Corliss. And they are here to talk to us about the city's Small Business Assistance Program. And we will have a reprise performance from Mr. Ailes and Ms. Corliss at our next meeting to talk more broadly about the city's ARPA funds. So just for counselors to have that focus when you're asking your questions, this presentation and any questions to follow really are about the small business program. With that, I'll turn it over to the 2 of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the City Council. Good to see you all in person this evening. We're here this evening and we're really excited to talk about the Small Business Rescue Plan, or the Small Business Assistance Program that we launched earlier last week. The program will be funded through the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA. And although we're going to discuss this program in some detail this evening and entertain any questions you may have, we're also very excited to come before your next City Council meeting to talk, as the Council President said, more broadly about ARPA in general and what some thoughts we have around that are collectively. To my left is Ms. Corliss. Many of you have already met her or had a chance to say hello this evening. We're really excited to have her on board. Her role is the management of the ARPA program, and she's been helping us and diligently working to craft this program with the help of a number of people. So it's important to understand that when we talk about this program, we have been working on this for a few weeks now, probably closer to a month and a half, and we've been soliciting input from some of our community partners, such as representative from Beverly Main Streets, representative from the Chamber of Commerce, representatives from the Retailers Association of Massachusetts, as well as Council President Flowers has been giving us some input, Mayor Cahill, and various internal staff to help develop this program. So that's about all I will do for an intro, and I'll turn it over to Jamie. She's got a few slides that she's going to walk through, and then we'll have an opportunity to entertain some questions. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm really excited to meet all of you for the first time. Most of you for the first time, and to be presenting this program. Like Brian said, we've been working really hard, so it's really exciting to have this be going live and be communicating with business owners. And we've already received well over a dozen, probably close to 20 applications, and it was only announced last week. So it's really exciting. Like Brian said, the program's being funded through ARPA, which, as you know, the City of Beverly received $12.6 million, and we have through December 31st, 2024 to allocate the funding. Next slide. So this program is targeted, again, to small businesses. That's being defined as 50 or fewer full-time equivalent employees and some other legislative kind of qualifiers. This is being targeted to hospitality, tourism, arts, recreation, retail, and family child care centers. The grants range with a minimum of $5,000 up to $50,000 is the cap per business. The way that we're going to be determining the amount each business gets awarded is once we have all the applications in, we'll look at the number we have, we'll put them in separate tranches based on revenue loss, and then divide awards up that way. So it's kind of, we're looking at the amount of revenue that has been lost over the year because ARPA requires us to respond reasonably and directly to impact from COVID. So that's kind of language that's woven really heavily throughout the final ARPA legislation. The application's open now and will be available until March 9th on the city's website. Next slide, please. After the deadline, we will review all of the applications. As they're coming in, I'm giving them a look over for completeness, following up with people if they're missing any forms, if I have any questions, just to kind of preempt the review process and make sure everything's all organized and ready, and to be available and communicative if people have questions about forms, make sure they're all tied with a nice bow before the reviewers look at them. We are putting together a review committee of 4 members, so that will include myself, a representative from Beverly Main Streets, a representative from the chamber, and a volunteer that the mayor will be putting forward. So we'll all get together, review them, and then announce awards at the end. So they're not being awarded on a rolling basis, so there's no points for getting things in earlier, which I'm trying to encourage people to take your time, make sure everything's accurate, make sure your business is represented as best as possible. Sorry, if I'm going really fast or you have questions as I'm spieling things off, just let me know. Sorry, my notes. Once the grants are awarded, there are some limitations on what they can be spent for, and that's driven by the ARPA legislation. So they can't be used for capital expenses or major equipment purchases. And that's based on how we're formulating the program under the legislation again. So there's always that balance of legislative restrictions, but making sure we're being responsive to actual needs. Once they're awarded, awardees will have to submit one report back to us to tell us what they spent it on. That's to make sure that we have the documentation we need to justify the program and pass an audit, which that's always I always say, if an auditor came in and wasn't here for this, would they be able to see what we did and make a good decision? So this report will really help us review and make sure that the funds were spent appropriately and in accordance with the legislation. It is a grant, it is not a loan. Repayment is not going to be required. And that's something I'm making sure we stress. It's not, I know there was some confusion with some of, the state assistance on what portions would need to be repaid back and which portions were a grant. This is a straight grant. There will be no repayment required. So all of the information is available at beverlyma.gov/ARPA. That includes the application form, which is a fillable PDF people can download, submit, complete, save, and then submit to me with all the required documentation. There's also a frequently asked questions document. We've been open a week and already have frequently asked questions. So that document is available for people to review. Again, I know sometimes businesses are filling these out at 9:00 at night, and I'm not there to answer the phone call. So we're trying to make sure people are prepared and able to do as much as possible on their own. There's also a link. Businesses will be required to provide a DUNS number. And that's, again, a federal requirement. We have to make sure that they're not disbarred from receiving federal funds. And the federal government requires us to look that up by a DUNS number. That's free for people to apply for, and we're preempting. We're saying, if it's not in the application, you need to apply for it before you get the funding. Do you need assistance? Here's the link. But yeah, there's lots of documentation up there for people. And we've been doing a lot of publicity. I know all of you should have gotten the email. We reached out to the partners that helped us build this program to disperse it to all of their clients or contacts or networks and encourage them to spread it out. So we're really trying to get the word out and encourage businesses to apply. That's all I had prepared. I always like to leave lots of time for questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ailes. Thank you, Ms. Corliss. Mr. Mayor, was there anything you wanted to add about this? No. Okay. Counselors, do you have any questions for Mr. Ailes or Ms. Corliss on this program? Mr. Sweeney, Counselor Sweeney, sorry.
Thank you, Madam President. I will likely hold most of my questions to next meeting. Just so I understand, the coming meeting is when we will discuss either if the mayor and your administration, if you guys have a proposal already, or if you have a framework of a proposal. Such framework or concrete proposals will be discussed at the coming city council meeting on the 7th, is that correct?
Yeah, so we've discussed internally some, general areas that the legislation covers that we are targeting as kind of rough targets of funding. So we'll go over all that in a couple weeks.
Okay. So on this specific proposal, the big question I have is the amount of the $12.6 million that will be dedicated to these grants. I believe I had heard in the neighborhood of $1 million. Is that set, or is that flexible depending on how many applications come into the city?
Madam President and Council, I'm not going to make them try to answer that because we've had a lot of internal conversations. We recognize that this is one of the important areas for focus within our ARPA capabilities. I think you saw in a newspaper article that Mr. Layton did last week that, we have a ceiling in mind.
Okay.
We also really won't know entirely what's needed in this area until we see all the eligible applications submitted after the deadline. We expect that it'll be in excess of $1 million. And as I said, we're going to do our very best to be thoughtful about how we understand the need as it comes through the door. But that's certainly a number that we expect to be pushing out.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
That's all from me, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Counselor Sweeney. Other questions from counselors? Counselor Rotundo.
Thank you, Madam President. Just one question that was asked of me was, and I don't know if you guys actually have this answer either. So the ARPA fund, that if a person is awarded or a company is awarded the money, do you know if that's a tax? Is it going to be need to be tax required to be claimed? So some of the grants in the past were not required to be, they weren't taxable, I guess. So I guess that's the question. Do you know that answer? You may not have that answer right now either.
We don't have that answer, and I would certainly hesitate to offer any tax advice. So my suggestion is to talk that over with your CPA, but I don't have a definitive answer for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Rotundo.
If I could just add one thing. I mean, realistically, a lot of the businesses that we're going to see come, with an application likely will be in a loss situation for their operation, which effectively means that it theoretically isn't taxable because they're showing a loss already. Mm-hmm. So if they're, showing great gains in their income, they're not going to be eligible for this program. So there may be some instances that we need to review more carefully, and certainly as the program, we get more information from it, we'll be able to kind of assess the situation and provide a little more guidance to the extent we're allowed to by law.
Thank you.
Counselor Rand.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to meet you, Ms. Corliss, and to be engaging in this work with you. I have a couple of questions. One is just, do you have a sense of sort of how many applications would signal a broad reach to the business community?
That's a really good question. When we were projecting, and for me sometimes it's not just applications, it's communications, right? So the reach is signified by people asking questions or needing some clarity. So it's not even necessarily how many applications we have in. When we were looking at some preliminary numbers, based on research that was done on the number of businesses in Beverly, it looked like there were, I think the number, and I wish I had that off the top of my head, was, in the ballpark of, 400 to 750, oh, look at that. Yeah, 483 businesses that would kind of fall in the categories we were looking to reach for. And for me, if we get applications or communications from 25%, that means, I think that we did good outreach.
Thank you. I do have a follow-up.
Would you mind holding your follow-up,
Not at
Counselor? And
all.
only because we're at 7:15, so I'm going to, I warned Ms. Corliss this might happen, because I didn't want her to think it was incredibly rude of me to cut her off. So we're going to just pause this presentation, and I know Counselor St. Hilaire, you're waiting as well for a question, so that we can open our 7:15 p.m. public hearing on time. So with that, we'll open the public hearing on Order 44. This is a petition from National Grid. Ms. Kent, would you read the order?
Legal order number 44, order that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 22nd at 7:15 p.m. at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, live stream on BevCam relative to the petition from National Grid for plan number 304-52436 Mark Bayview Ave. And this was published in the newspaper on February 14th.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. And we do have Sabita, our National Grid rep, is here. Would you mind coming to the podium and giving us a little bit more information about this?
Sure. Sabita Mahabir, representing National Grid, 44 River Street, Beverly, Massachusetts. This is to facilitate a service upgrade at this location.
Councilors, are there any questions about this particular plan? All right. Any members of the public who would like to speak on this issue? All right. With that, we'll close this public hearing and refer that back to subcommittee, and we will vote that out of committee tonight. Public Services. Thank you, Ms. Kent. With that, Ms. Corliss and Mr. Ailes, and I invite you back to the podium. And Sabita, thank you for being here with us as well. Councilor Rand, let's pick it back up with you, and then we'll go over to Councilor St. Hilaire.
Thank you. I guess I have actually two more quick questions. One is, and I should know this because I've done it, but I don't remember, how long does it take to get approval for a DUNS number? And then the second, or DUNS, I think the number is in that acronym, but, and the second question, is there any opportunity or thought towards a second round of grant funding, depending on, you know, where we land, what range we land in with this round of grants?
So typically, in my experience, a DUNS number takes a week or less for them to turn around the request. Always, there are occasionally extenuating circumstances. A lot of businesses are finding they have one but didn't remember,
Right.
And have gone through the process already because it's been a requirement from other grant opportunities that have been available recently. And the second question, sorry.
Opportunity for a second round of grants?
Thank you. So it's certainly something that has been a conversation, and that's one thing that's consistently come up is remaining flexible with the ARPA funding to be responsive, you know, because the nature of the pandemic is consistently changing. We don't currently have a set date to roll one out, but it is absolutely a conversation that, you know, we're open to having.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, Councilor Rand. Councilor St. Hilaire.
Thank you. So I just want to say kudos to Ms. Corliss, Mr. Ailes, Mayor Cahill. I think this is a great program. There are clearly a lot of small businesses that have been impacted significantly by the pandemic, and I think this is a great use of the ARPA fund. So kudos, number one. And also, just looking for clarity on the deadline. You know, there's been a lot of interest so far and a little bit of a rush to get applications in. You're saying take your time. There's no first come, first serve kind of situation.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. And the current deadline for submission is March 9th at 5 p.m.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Councilor Bowen.
Great, thank you. And also thank you for the presentation and for the program. I think it's exciting to see money rolling out and particularly exciting to see direct assistance where it's needed. I think that's something as we look at the whole, you know, in next week's or next meeting's presentation, the whole plan for the money, really meeting needs that haven't been met and kind of backfilling some of the pain and suffering that people have been through is important. But related to that, I had some questions similar to Councilor Rand's, and so thank you for those answers. And just kind of a follow-up, I've heard a little bit of feedback already on the form itself, and folks not understanding sort of why the level of detail is needed, and making that calculation in their heads of, is the time it's going to take me to gather all this information going to be worth if I come in at the low end of that scale and not having a great sense of how the, effort that they put into the grant application translates to the chances of an award. So just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit, assistance that people might be able to get if they're not sure how to approach that. And I know, having applied for many grants myself in other roles, you do make that calculation, and we don't want to add a burden on people who are already stretched just in order to access the direct assistance that we're trying to provide, but understand on the other side those needs to meet federal requirements. So if you could just share a little bit more about how you're thinking about that trade-off, and whether, a second round is a way to address that, or any parts of the form that could be clarified, why this information is needed or how it's going to be used.
Sure. So that is certainly something that I try very hard to be conscientious of, is that balance of what do I absolutely need, right, and what is the time value that somebody's committing to this. The application is only 4 pages, and the 4th page is just signatures. So we really did kind of try to pare it down to what do we absolutely have to have. The additional documentation is, typically, like taxes, which people generally, have available and accessible, so we really tried to not ask for anything superfluous, right? Really trying to be conscientious of that. That also played into the decision to put a minimum, because again, when people are weighing that, we could say grants up to, and there's a whole range. It's, that goes from 0 to 50,000. But by putting in a minimum, that kind of says the minimum commitment of anyone who's, determined to be eligible through the process is X. So that was certainly part of that thinking. And we really do want to respect and value the time of business owners. So does that kind of answer? I haven't really people have not really reached out for a whole lot of clarity. The biggest question is, do you think I'm eligible? And people kind of want to talk through the nature of their business. That's really the biggest question I've been getting, but I'm very much available and addressing any questions people have. And I know, I think our partners are also making themselves available to help people if they have any clarifying questions or things like that.
Can I add one thing?
Of course.
That I think is relevant for people that are asking themselves, why are we asking for all this documentation? The way the legislation reads, we're required internally to determine that there is in fact a need and a disproportionate effect, a monetary effect to these businesses. And in order to do that, Jamie mentioned this earlier on in her presentation, that it needs to pass muster with any IRS audit that may occur later on down the road. If any of these expenditures, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, if we get audited on and we can't prove that it in fact met the nature of the legislation, the city potentially could be liable to repay those funds. And so we need to make sure we've got the right documentation from companies so that we can say, yes, see, they had a need and we gave them a grant.
Thank you. Any other questions, Councilor Bowen? Thank you. Oh, Mr. Mayor?
Going for the hat trick.
We all just want to keep former Councilor Flaherty here longer tonight, because we love having him in the room. I do just want to add as well to Councilor Bowen's question and back to Councilor Sweeney's question. In terms of the business owners will need to make their own decision as to whether it's worth applying. As long as they show that they're eligible, then there will be grant money coming their way. And again, it's not until we see the universe of ask locally, until we have all the applications in, and the screening committee is able to confirm eligibility, only then can we determine how much we are able to push out to any given business, and only then will we be able to also determine what's the total that we'll expend, right? And so that we're going to do our very best to make sure that the awards are meaningful. The goal is to help these businesses survive and recover. So it is, and that's why it's to put a number. Really, we can't. As Ms. Corliss said, that minimum shows that at least that's the least you'll get if you're eligible, and we hope that the screening committee will be able to then make sound judgments on just how much to push out to each business. We really want all of these local businesses to really get on through to the other side of COVID and get back to thriving. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I know Councilor Rotundo has another question, but I'm going to pause us yet again because we're at 7:25 and we do have another public hearing. And actually, what I'd like to do with this one, because this public hearing, Mr. Ailes will be talking to us about, but I'd like to, I'm going to open it in a moment, but then I'd like to recess it so that we can have this presentation, Mr. Flaherty's presentation, and also our citizen speaker if possible, so that we don't keep everyone here waiting. And Mr. Ailes is okay with this. I already did check with him. So with that, let's open the public hearing on Order 32, our 7:25 public hearing. Ms. Kent?
Order number 32, order that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Tuesday, February 22nd at 7:25 PM at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, live on BevCam, relative to the transfer of $175,000 from the Airport Enterprise Fund balance to fund continued work with the testing and monitoring of property at the airport. And this was published Monday, February 14th. February 14th, a Monday? Friday?
That was a Monday.
Monday, yeah. Monday, February 14th.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. So I would entertain a motion to recess this public hearing until 7:50.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 7-0. So we will recess this public hearing to 7:50, close it for now, and bring Ms. Corliss and Mr. Ailes back up to the podium. And Councilor Rotundo, we'll pick up with you.
Sorry, thank you. One's a question, one's a comment. So the first question is, with the closing date being March 9th, do you have what you think the time would take to review these applications to be awarded rather?
Yeah, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to convene two sessions with the review committee. So partly it's scheduling for, 4 people for 3 to 4 hours at one period. So we're hopeful that we'll get them 2 days in a row, and that we'll be making awards, within 4 weeks of closing the application deadline.
And then the other thing is just a comment about the application, because I know Councilor Bowen had asked it, and I can say I did look at it and reviewed it, and I can say it was very simple. So from my own personal experience doing it, it was a simple application. A lot of the information that you did ask was prior applications that we had filed, businesses that, I have a restaurant, so we filed with the MGCC. So a lot of those application questions were similar, even actually more simplified, less space to have to put these big paragraphs in. So I do want to commend you and say thank you. I did see Mr. Ailes one time and thanked him, and he did actually say it was a lot to do with you. So I want to say thank you for the simplicity of the application, as well as the information gathering wasn't terrible, because a lot of it we already had if we had already filed for other applications. So thank you. That was all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Councilor Rotundo. Councilors, any other questions or comments for this presentation? All right. Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Corliss. Thank you, Mr. Ailes. Ms. Corliss, I know we've met over a screen several times. It's nice to meet you in person, and thank you both for being here, and we'll look forward to having a further ARPA fund discussion at our March 7th meeting.
Yes, excellent. Thank you all.
And thank you, councilors. Great questions. So, Mr. Flaherty, would you like to come up to the podium? And it's nice to welcome you here in your role as director of the YMCA, Greater Beverly YMCA.
Thank you.
Oh, Bryant is going to switch.
While we get
Oh,
ready, I was looking at you.
Mr. Ailes is on tech support.
3 pages of work to do. I think you guys are working harder than we ever worked when I was on the council. I will say, too, I worked with Jamie Corliss when I was at the Cape Ann Y, when she was working for the city of Gloucester, and I think you got a gem in working with her. So kudos to Mayor Cahill for stealing her from Gloucester. It's kind of interesting coming from Cape Ann, my work-wise, full-time job, and going to the Beverly Y, because I think I've seen Mayor Cahill more. I met with Mike Collins yesterday. I think I'm the 10th counselor sometimes. I've even actually mentioned a few projects that I wanted to see get forward that I couldn't talk to Collins when I was counselor, so just trying to help out. A few things I want to talk about. It's amazing kind of being on the other side. I mean, obviously, some of you know that I worked for the Beverly Y many years ago before I ran the Mcpherson Youth Center and the Beverly Youth Collaboration. But kind of interesting, 25 years later, where it all came about. And it's funny, 25 years later, or before, I had little kids running around, and now they're all bigger than I am, which is kind of interesting. So financial assistance, I think it's important to kind of go with this slide first. And we last year, $760,000 that we gave out in financial assistance to the community. Now, when I say, and we're budgeting for $930, almost $1 million, we don't raise that money. That's money that we make sure we don't turn anybody away for programs, for membership, for camp. It's a very important part of what the Y is all about and what separates us from other organizations. But we only raise probably not even half of that. So we try to go out in the community from our members and people who want to help out kids and families. But we only, again, raise half of that through the community. So it's kind of goes to show you that we're giving them more, obviously, than we actually raise. And then the need, because of COVID and the need in the community, obviously has risen. And on a good front, like for camp, we have registration for camp going up and kind of concerned about with COVID. The numbers, some parts of camp are already booked for summertime already. So it's a kind of a good sign, parents wanting to get out there for the community. But I want to make sure I mention that first. Some of the other programs that we have, adaptive and inclusion programs. And it's kind of, as I go through here, there is a lot, and I'll try to go fairly quickly, because I know you have a big agenda. But it's kind of interesting. Sometimes you think of the Y in the old days where you just go learn how to swim or you learn just to play basketball. There's so much more that is involved in the Y and the impact it has on the community. But adaptive and inclusion is something we've been doing for a number of years. And it's kind of a great program like the Waterwise program here or Camp Star, helping kids that really need it. And actually Camp Star goes from ages 6 to 22. So the program and the impact that we have on kids that really need it is a great program. We started the Waterwise program a few years ago for kids that really needed it. As we move on, Cornerstone is a program that is for cancer survivors or families of cancer survivors in the past 5 years, that they're able to come to the Y for free. So the idea, if you have yourself been a survivor or a family member, it can be a traumatic time for a lot of families. So we started this program a couple years ago, and it kind of, with COVID, obviously, it changed a few things, but we started it up again in January, and it's already moving in the right direction, and it really has a strong impact. We give them a membership, but then also they take part in a lot of programs that are beneficial for them as well. Now, as we start talking about like community collaborations, like in aquatics, we deal with a lot of schools. Obviously, Beverly High School utilizes the facility, but we have other high schools like Pingree and Manchester, and Fenwick uses them as well. We also have the fire department, and what we try to do, and since I think the Y's always done a pretty good job with this, but what I'm trying to do is, one of my goals and the focus is really make the YMCA almost a reflection of the community and make it that community organization. So when you really need help, you're there. I mean, they obviously do a great job. You see with the financial aid and the programs that they offer, but the idea of really trying to make a difference in the community and being that community organization, working hand to hand with Bruce Doig and the Recreation Department, working hand in hand with the school department and the city, that's what will make the Y successful. So I mentioned the fire department, other collaborations like gymnastics. The gymnastics team utilizes the Y as well, amongst other programs, other high schools that utilize that as well. The gymnasium, we utilize the facility. And when I say gymnasiums, like Penguin Hall goes there, and the girls travel basketball goes there, the softball goes there. But we can always do a better job in working with the community. I think we do a pretty good job, but we can always do a better job in working with the community, having that. If some of you obviously have been down to that kind of campus kind of thing, where you have the main Sterling Center and the Teen Center up at the Hill with the ELC program, we could always do more in meeting the needs of the community, because the community needs are always changing. And that goes something like even with the gymnasium, doing more programs. Yes, it's a basketball gymnasium, but we're doing a lot of programs. Actually, pickleball has been a huge thing, and I know we're going to build an outdoor court there as well, but pickleball has been a huge success with people, senior citizens, but also, I left just a little while ago, and we did nighttime as well, because there are a lot of people who are working who like to play it as well. So when I get into this next section, I know you know Rebecca, who's come before us, and talked about Be Healthy Beverly, and the programs that they do. I'll go over that briefly. I know you've heard about it before, but we'll also go about it when budget time comes. But the idea of what Be Healthy Beverly does, and the organizations and the civic organizations that we work with to make it, Beverly, the Y is kind of like the lead agency that works with a lot of community leaders, police department, religious organizations, makes a big difference. And some of the programs they do, tobacco cessation training, regional youth group, drug take-back days. Those are kind of a few of the things that you can see on the program that Be Healthy Beverly does. Really great program. Another program that is actually held at the youth center that happened a few years ago is the PASS program. And the PASS program is a great collaboration with area schools. You can see them all down here, Beverly, Salem, Ipswich, Lynn, all the programs that we work with, the Children's Friend and Family Services. It's a program that kids who have struggled in the regular setting of a high school can go down to the youth center, and we'll have programs and support programs too in a different setting. And they'll stay sometimes, 3 weeks, a month, depending on the situation. It's a great program. I will tell you though, the facility itself, and I'm not going to, everybody knows this, is inadequate actually, not for the youth center, but also for the PASS program, but it still works. And the kids, I was down there today, and it's just amazing how the kids kind of have that option of having going down there to this facility to have this kind of opportunity that didn't have a few years ago. Great program that has happened. And here on the next page here, we talk about some of the average stay, how many females is actually pretty even, as you can see on there. And the reasons for referral could be substance abuse, violence, school avoidance, refusing to do schoolwork, mental health, vandalism, and especially with COVID, mental health is actually probably higher than it is at 15% that we see here before you. And then the Mcpherson Youth Center, that obviously is dear to my heart of things that we used to do down there over 25 years ago. It's great to see the program sustain itself and work, because there were some doubts 25 years ago whether this kind of unique collaboration would work. But it's kind of nice to kind of come back here as a different perspective as to why coming in here and realizing some of the things that we can do better working with the city, some of the programs we can do. The one thing you don't want to lose is the focus of what the youth center is all about, and helping those area kids, come down there and being able to have an outlet that they might not have at home. That's the main focus, but you can do so many more things down there. I remember many years ago when you used to do a street hockey league, you'd have kids from Gloucester Crossing, and you had kids from Pride's Crossing on the same team. That's a kind of unique perspective that you might not see maybe in a school setting or in a sports team, which is kind of nice. So here are some of the programs here. We've almost served about 1,000 kids since June of last year. Those are individual kids going down there for whatever variety, and that's even during COVID and all the programs that have been limited since that, but they're still coming down there because the kids still need an outlet to go down to, which is extremely important. Let me switch over to the after-school program, and it's good to see Lorinda Visnick here. We have a great relationship with the school department and working with the schools, all the area schools, mostly the elementary, but we do the middle school. And you can see some of the numbers that are on here. Some of these numbers are a little down from the years past, and it's because we have to have restrictions in there for space. There's a waiting list actually for some of these area schools. But this kind of tells you what the kids do, whether it be gym activities, curriculum, and kind of going through some of the programs, making sure the kids have a safe and a structured environment after school. Most of it is, it's kind of like when you have, parents working, both parents working. This is a crucial part of some of the Y programs that we try to do and work in collaboration with the school system. It's been a great program over the years and working with the schools. But again, very, I think the families are very grateful they have the opportunity to go in there to utilize those programs. Changing course a little bit, going into camp and summer literacy. Some of the camps that we've had in there, where we have STEM or something like gymnastics or adventure programs, we have almost 1,000 kids going in there during the summertime. And like I said, we opened registration a few weeks ago, and some of those programs are already full. So we try to balance those out. But another great program that we do is the Mayor Cahill Summer Literacy Program, which I applaud the mayor for, being able to fundraise, go and get the money to support this program so kids can go there for free. And it's a great program. Some of the stats that we have seen, it's amazing that we could be able to provide this type of environment. And it was a Brian Kelly from Kelly, Infinity and all those, Kyle, you see him on the commercials, and then kind of seeing him the other day at a meeting with Mayor Cahill and myself and a few others, and he spoke real about how important it was for him. He had trouble reading when he was a youngster and the struggles that he had to overcome, and he wished he had a program like this. And here's a guy who's been very successful in his life, and the idea of having the support of a program like this, he thinks is crucial, because if a kid cannot read, or a child cannot read by the time of third grade, the percent of dropping out of high school skyrockets. So I just think of how the support that families might not have, or even if they do have the support, there's still struggles out there. So a program like this, so Mayor, thank you for supporting that program, and not only supporting it, but having it being very successful. We'll have 175 kids in this program summertime, and what they do is they go to the Hannah Elementary School, and then in the afternoon, they go over to the camp, cut through the woods and go to the camp and have a camp setting. So it's kind of set on as just being always in school. They get their skills, and then they go into the camp in the summertime, and nobody knows anything different. So it's kind of nice. Switching over to housing, see, here we go from kids to housing. We do a lot, and so some of the units they were talking about, there's about almost 300 units. 91 are for families, 205 are for individuals. Of course, the YMCA of the North Shore does this throughout the North Shore, but it really started here in Beverly, and 129 live within our affordable housing units. 99% of the residents' average income is below $20,000. And I will tell you, as I flip the page here, they can see a picture here, but when I first came to the Y in December, I had two individuals kind of reach out to me, and I'm not directly involved. We have a housing team that kind of works with these individuals and families, but when you're someone in need, they don't know of how involved I am, and this is amazing, because I had two individuals reach out to me that one's not homeless, but one is definitely homeless. I've been trying to get this, especially both of them, but this especially one individual. I talk to him probably, no kidding, 3 times a week, and he goes, "Tim, I cannot live in these conditions. I'm living on a couch with rats and mice coming through all night long, and I cannot get enough sleep." So I've been bugging the Y Housing and say, "Listen, this guy is homeless. The guy needs, because it all has to be through a waiting list and all through that." And it's interesting. Today, I got a note from the housing guy, said the guy's in. And to tell you the truth, I called the guy, and I'm like, it was like the best phone call I've had in years. I said, "Hey, guess what? I got good news for you." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "I got housing for you. You have to meet with the Beverly Y next week." He thought I was kidding. He goes, "You saved my life." Now, I obviously didn't do that, but the Y did that, and be able to have that housing, to be able to have that impact on a community. And that's just one example that we have from housing, from childcare. It's just it kind of makes you kind of want to get up the next day and do the job, because you say if some guy tells you that, you save his life. And the opportunity to go into this housing, you can see some of the pictures on the next slide, the impact it has. Now you have a spot for that has air conditioning in there. Before, they never had that. They're always outside. But some of you were on that tour, went through a couple weeks ago. Just amazing, the transformation from those 44, 45 units of housing into almost 70 units of housing there made a huge difference in the living quarters. Before, they had to have common bathrooms, common kitchen area, and the idea to have your own individual, the pride, the self-pride, to be able to do that and have your own facility is outstanding for some of these, in the confidence that gives some of these individuals living in there. It's just amazing. And some of the project money, most of it came from the Department of Housing and Community Development, but we also got support from the CPA, from the city, that we voted on a few months ago. Maybe, I forget when it was, but we voted on that support, a nice community effort. And then you see sometimes your vote making a difference by getting some of these individuals into these units. And obviously, we all talk about housing and the need for housing. These are Beverly people that I'm talking about, and the impact they have is outstanding. Like I said, it's pretty exciting that you can be able to do that. But the Y doesn't do it alone. You do it by working with the school system. You do it by working with the mayor. You do it with working with the area businesses, and whether it be the Chamber of Commerce, Main Streets. It's amazing how you kind of, it's like a melting pot of making a difference. And actually, right now, some of you who are on that tour, the Cabot Y, they're trying to maybe turn that into a community center. Maybe a mental health coordination, or a whole, doing yoga down there, maybe for people who might need it in the community, doing area events for the downtown, maybe in, some of the Ward 2 Civic Association. So there's a lot of possibilities, because I brought up a whole bunch of people through there, and one was Darlene Wynn, and she goes, guess what? Downtown doesn't really have a spot to have like this community center and doing maybe maker space, but people don't have the space to do something in their apartment. They can do it maybe at the Y. So there's a lot of good kind of unique possibilities with the transformation of the housing to be able to do something like a community center downtown. We're still in the works and trying to figure that all out, but the opportunity is there to do a nice community space. And again, the last picture here, you can see the unit in here. Some of it was half done a little bit, but you can see they have a little kitchenette area that they didn't have before. And especially if you think about the COVID situations that were in here, where if they didn't have their own individual rooms and they had to go to common space and share the space, it would have been a tough thing for these individuals at the time, 44 units going in there. Now they have their own shower, their own area to cook. Makes a big difference in self-worth. So I try to do that in a limited time. I know it kind of maybe I went too long, but you can see what the Y does and the impact the Y has on the community of Beverly and surrounding communities. It's a great organization to be a part of. But like I said, we're only as good or only as strong as the people we work with. And I think I can say that being in the seat you guys were before and being where I am now, having the collaborations with the school system and with the mayor's office and the area businesses and the people in the community make the difference and make the Y a successful community organization. So that's basically all I have to say. It's a lot. If you have any questions, and you guys are always welcome for a tour. Randy came down today, and she had a nice little tour. She's really involved in the gymnastics program, and she kind of misses it a little bit. She wants to get more involved. So, whether it be the Sterling Center or a tour of Cabot Street, and some of the programs that we're doing throughout the community, we'd love to have you guys down there and take a look. So thank you for having me, Madam President and Council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Flaherty, and it's always nice to have many of our nonprofits and community partners to come in and give us updates and presentations like this from time to time, so it's wonderful to have you here to talk to us about the Greater Beverly Y. Councilors, are there any questions? Councilor St. Hilaire.
Just want to make a comment, and it looks like you've transitioned quite well from this side to that side of the room, so thank you for the update. And sorry I missed the tour a couple weeks ago. I definitely would love to rebook. I'm just struck by the 99%, under the poverty line for your housing and the 1,000-person wait list. That's a significant number, and again, a little bit, obviously more to do there. So just keep up the good work, and thank you for the update.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Councilor St. Hilaire. Before we go to Councilor Bowen, we're at 7:50, so I'm going to reopen our public hearing on Order 32 and entertain a motion to recess this public hearing to 8:05.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. So we'll close this public hearing, open it again at that time. And Councilor Bowen, we'll pick up with you.
Thank you, and great to see the overview, and I know it is a lot of ground to cover, so I appreciate that kind of update across all the different programs. The one that I wanted to ask about was building on the work at the youth center. I know there is work on the city side to think about that space and re-envisioning that space, so curious what your perspective on that is. And also on just coordination around youth services as, you know, a big player in that space in the city. I know there's been a youth collaborative up and down in the past, and just, you know, I think there's a lot of energy right now as more activities are possible as COVID numbers go down in reinvigorating offerings for young people in the city. So if you could just expand a little bit on what the Y is thinking about all those things around youth services.
Yeah, I mean, the collaboration, that's what we want to know about the collaboration. The collaboration is key to success. I remember when we put this in 25 years ago, I said, if the Y just takes it over and runs with it, it's not going to be as successful as it could be. And I'm sure there were a few years that maybe that happened, but I think it's important to have the city involved in any capacity. I mean, you obviously have to have an agency, like the Y has to kind of lead and make sure that happens, but the idea of having other agencies, like you saw the ones we put before you, we're probably dealing with every agency in Beverly, and if not the North Shore, in some capacity. That helps with the success of the youth center or the PASS program. Without that collaboration, it doesn't work. So as successful as it has been, like I said, it can always be better. And I guess it's whatever it's ironic or the timing is, the idea of being able to come here as a director of the Greater Beverly Y and having the experience of the youth center, which I know what worked, what didn't, and not be afraid to kind of change and work with other agencies. It's critical. It's not something that the city turns around and says, here's a check, go to it. There needs to be like those checks and balances to say, hey, why do you do this program? Why do you do this way? And I think it's always good to have that, because like in anything, whether it be your guys here at the council chambers, it's good to be questioned. It's good to kind of think outside the box to be as successful as you can be. You can always look at things a little differently. But I do think the idea with the unique perspective of having the city of Beverly and the Y is a unique, as it was 25 years ago. And to see its success means the commitment of the Y. I know the Y puts in like $50,000 towards this for the youth center to make it successful over the years. And I look forward to working with the mayor and the city council to make sure it is successful. To make sure that when we go down and we have events, that the city has an ownership of its success. It's not just writing a check and saying, hey, good luck with that. The success is the collaboration. And I do want to say one thing, just on a quick side note. I've worked with Councilor Bowen probably for well over a year on the charter revision, and I know I'm going to be put a different hat on in a few weeks, because that was a lot of work, and the help of Councilor Bowen and others. It's been a lot of work. I know a lot of you have been there. That's going to be a big change for the city in some aspects, and I think it was a great group to work with, and I think we got a lot done. Especially with trying to do it during COVID, and we still succeeded. So thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. There's a nice little teaser of coming events.
coming attractions.
Coming
right.
attractions. Councilor Bowen, any follow-up, or are you?
No, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Bowen. Any other councilors with questions or comments for Mr. Flaherty? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here, and nice to see you, as Councilor Naylor said, on the other side of the podium.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
Councilor Rotundo has been instrumental in since I've been there for the last probably 2 months, and trying to make sure that that youth center is taken care of, and making sure the needs are there, and then kind of calling him and say, hey, can you help me with this? So I want to publicly thank him, because it's made a difference. I'm probably going to be saying that for the next several years, because of some of the work that he's done behind the scenes. And I think he likes doing that too, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
So we should be watching for Councilor Rotundo on the skate park, doing some.
I don't think you want to see him on there.
No, you don't.
Thank you very much, Mr. Flaherty, for being here. So with that, let's have our citizen speaker, our city clerk, Ms. Kent, emailed us to let us know that she would be on the agenda tonight. So Ms. Adams, would you like to come to the podium, give us your name and address for the record? And then you have up to 5 minutes to address us.
All right, hello, my name is Libby Adams. I'm at 8 Bartlett Street in Beverly. I know that the Beverly City Council won't be making a land acknowledgement statement at their meetings, but land acknowledgement is something that is important to me, and I think it is important to other residents of Beverly as well. So tonight, I just wanted to read a land acknowledgement so it can be part of the meeting in some way. As we gather here in this place, we acknowledge and honor the original indigenous inhabitants of this land, the Namkeg and Pawtucket bands of the Massachusetts Tribal Nation, which continues today through the membership of the Massachusetts Tribe. We acknowledge their ancestral and continued connection to the land. We also recognize our obligations to this land, to better environmental care and stewardship, to which the indigenous people who care for it have long called us. As we work toward diversity, equity, and inclusion, we acknowledge the importance of lifting up and inviting in many voices, including those of indigenous people, and of including those voices and perspectives in our discourse, in our decision-making, and in our actions. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Adams, and thanks for your patience and being with us as we sort of went in and out of some public hearings there. So we have a few minutes now before we need to reopen our public hearings, so let's take care of some council business if we can. Let's go to acceptance of minutes of previous meetings, and we have 3 sets of minutes to accept. Special joint city council meeting October 13th, 2021. And that was the meeting that we held with the City of Salem City Council. The regular city council meeting from February 7th, that was a Monday, and special city council meeting from February 12th, 2022. Is there a motion to accept these minutes?
Motion to accept 3 sets of meetings?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. Ms. Kent, why don't we start and take care of some of the communications from His Honor the Mayor?
In order number 047, sorry. Dear Honorable City Council, the City of Beverly was previously awarded 3 grants related to projects in and around Beverly's waterfront. The grants have received the proper approval by the City Council. However, the match components of these grants will require a transfer of funds from the city's Waterway Improvement Fund. I respectfully request the City Council approve a total transfer of $70,920 from the WIF fund. This transfer consists of $35,000 to support the CAD cell feasibility study grant, $32,800 to support the hoist pier construction grant, and $3,120 to support the Glover Wharf float feasibility study grant. I respectfully ask the City Council to take action on this combined request by setting a public hearing at your upcoming meeting on Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. Thank you. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property.
Order number 48. Dear Honorable City Council, I respectfully request a transfer of $642,085 from the city's certified free cash balance into the Capital Fund 598, and to rescind the previously authorized loan order, Council Order number 44-2021, which was for the replacement of the turf field located on the high school campus. The work was completed this past year, and as originally planned, I am requesting the use of free cash to pay the cost of this project rather than borrowing funds to do so. You will recall that the loan authorization for $750,000 was requested to expedite the replacement within the summer months in an effort to minimize the disruption of high school athletic use. and the plan as outlined was to utilize the FY 2020 available free cash to pay the costs. This free cash transfer request requires that a public hearing be set prior to a final council vote. Please initiate action at your city council meeting by scheduling a public hearing. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set a public hearing. And I should have said Order 47 will also be to set a public hearing in subcommittee.
Order number 49. Dear Honorable City Council, I may respectfully request a transfer of $1,111,519 from city's certified free cash balance to be placed in the city's stabilization fund. This requested amount represents 10% of the certified free cash balance and is consistent with the city's stabilization fund policy. Secondly, I request a transfer of $224,304, representing 2% of the city's certified free cash balance from the free cash balance to be placed into the city's OPEB trust. This request is also constant with city policies. Continued investment in these areas is crucial to the city's long-term financial health, and I ask the City Council to approve these transfer requests totaling $1,335,823. This free cash transfer requires a public hearing to be set prior to final council vote. Please initiate action at your City Council meeting by scheduling a public hearing. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set a public hearing.
Order number 50. Dear Honorable City Council, I respectfully ask that you approve a transfer of the city's free cash balance in the amount of $1,500,000 to be placed into the City Hall Rehabilitation Capital Project Fund. This initial investment will allow the project feasibility study and need assessment to begin. The first steps of the project will be contract with owner's project manager and shortly thereafter to solicit proposals in contrast with a design team to begin the process. Based on previous capital projects, this initial amount should get us well into the schematic design phase, with once completed will help us better estimate the total project scope, cost, and time frame. At that point, we will request additional funding to move forward with the project. This project has been outlined in our capital plan for quite some time, and with school-related debt being retired over the next few fiscal years, the city's annual budget will be able to absorb the anticipated debt service associated with this project. This request will require a public hearing be set prior to a final action by the City Council. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set a public hearing.
I'm not time yet. Order number 51. Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby reappoint, as subject to your review and recommendation, Mr. Michael Murphy, 43 Fairview Ave, to serve as the City Republican Committee's representative on the Register of Voters. His term is to be effective from March 31st, 2022 until March 31st, 2025. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services.
Order number 52. Dear Honorable City Council, attached for your review and approval is the proposed 2022 member rate schedule for the Beverly Golf and Tennis Club, submitted by Golf Facility Management, Inc., and recommended by the Beverly Golf and Tennis Commission. There are no changes to the rule and member permit fees that were placed in for 2022. The golf cart fee for 18 holes has increased by $2 to $20, as indicated in the attached document from Golf Facilities Management, Inc. The 2022 rates have been reviewed and accepted by the Commission on February 16, 2022. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services. And I would entertain a motion to accept a late file on Order 66 from His Honor the Mayor.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much.
Order number 66, dear Honorable City Council, as you are aware, the city recently submitted a successful bid to purchase 2 real estate parcels located on Simon Street that are currently owned by the Beverly Housing Authority. It is the city's intent to purchase and improve these lots and maintain them as open space for the neighborhood. The purchase price of the two parcels combined is $400,000, and the city anticipates incurring an additional $125,000 in costs to survey and improve upon the lots. On Thursday, February 17th, the Community Preservation Committee recommended an awarded of $200,000 for this purchase. I am requesting that $325,000 of the city's free cash balance be transferred for the remainder of the purchase price, as well as the cost of improvements to the lots. This free cash transfer requires a public hearing to be set prior to a final council vote. Please initiate action at your next meeting. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set a public hearing. And that was actually perfect timing. Good job, team. We're at 8:05, so we will reopen our public hearing on order number 32, the transfer from the Airport Enterprise Fund balance. Mr. Ailes.
Thank you again, Madam President, members of the City Council. You have before you this evening an order requesting a transfer from the Airport Enterprise Fund in the amount of $175,000. Just to give you a very brief sense of kind of how this works, for those of you that may be new or for those of you at home that may be listening, the city has a number of enterprise funds that act effectively as their own cost centers. They're like their own buckets, and the airport has one. So they receive revenues every year for landing fees, for fuel surcharges, for leases that goes into this bucket. It stays in that bucket, and then those funds in turn can be used for airport operations. So we are requesting that $175,000 be removed from that bucket to pay for costs associated with some testing and reporting that's required up at the airport on some land.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ailes. Councilors, are there any questions for Mr. Ailes or any comments? Councilor Bowen.
Thank you. So in part because as each new thing that comes in front of us the first time is also a learning opportunity, this may be a question that I wouldn't need to ask again, but just curious about sort of how an expense like this shows up in financial statements and planning documents, whether it's something that's more of a continuing operational expense, whether it's more of a one-time, sort of the equivalent of a capital expense paid out of free cash in the general fund, but specifically within this enterprise fund. And if you could just share a little bit more about sort of how this work is going. Is this something we'll continue to see in future years?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great question. It is very similar to, as you stated, when we request free cash transfers. When we're talking about free cash, it's what's called the general fund, which is the large kind of pool or bucket of money that the city operates within. It brings in tax revenue and other sources of revenue throughout the year, and that kind of stays within its own bucket and is the general fund. That paves your roads, that pays for your schools, that does everything we as a city do. These enterprise funds are smaller buckets. They, in turn, at the end of every year, close out, and we close the books, and if there's any money left over in kind of like a savings account, that's what we refer to as retained earnings. Retained earnings in the general fund is free cash. Retained earning in the enterprise fund is called retained earnings. So it's effectively the same thing. We're just dipping into the savings account to cover this ongoing capital expense. And the reason we're doing it this way is because annually when we come before the council in late spring, early summer, to submit a budget, we address each individual enterprise fund separately. And we say, here are the anticipated revenues for the coming year, and here are the anticipated expenditures for the coming year. And on paper, we balance them. Regularly, every enterprise fund has the need for some sort of capital investment or some sort of project that it foresees, having the need for. A lot of times, the request for retained earnings will be in the form of a grant match. Particularly with the airport, they may have, $1 million grants that come in from the FAA or from Mass DOT that will help do work up at the airport, but we may need to come up with a 10% match or something of that nature. So that retained earnings balance is important to maintain a balance there. so that as we have these needs and they arise, you're able to dip in, and it doesn't have an impact on the general fund and the taxpayer resources within the city. Is that, I don't know, there were a couple questions in there. Did I get most of them, or?
Yeah, that's very helpful. And so I guess then specifically to this project, is this something that is anticipated to, it's continuation of work? So is this an ongoing expense, and will that show up in either budget season or the next capital expenditure plan, or some other way, just so that we know sort of how big a commitment this is overall versus a one-time?
Yeah, so 2 years ago in FY20, we made an initial ask for some funding of $100,000 for this same process. There has been a series of testings and reporting that DEP is requiring us to do and issue. We currently are contracted through that original $100,000 and this additional $175,000, and at that point, we should have met what is required of us right now to file with DEP, but time can only tell what DEP is going to say when they receive those final reports. But we feel this should get us to a point which hopefully is the stop in the road, but we'll know more once they complete their work. It is, so to answer your question, it's entirely possible we may need some additional funds. It's entirely possible that if it's a lesser value, we may roll it into the operating budget just to, appropriate it somewhere. But we'll know more in the coming months.
Okay, great. And it's hazardous material testing, or sort of, that's usually?
Mayor Cahill knows a little bit more about the specifics of.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor?
Hi again, everybody. So as Mr. Ailes said, we've been trying to support this effort at the airport for a few years now. And Commissioner Collins wasn't able to be here tonight. He gave me a few thoughts to share with you to just give you a little better picture of what's gone over the last few years. So if you don't mind me reading a couple of paragraphs, that's probably more informative than I could try to be. So again, these are Commissioner Collins' words. It appears that in 2017, one of the tenants at the airport sold their business. What we know is then that the new owners performed a 21E site inspection to satisfy their lender, as is typical. The site had a history of fuel spills that were reported to DEP and properly cleaned up and closed out. For unknown reasons, the new owners reported their findings as a new release of oil, which it is not. After appealing to DEP to a legal status that holds them harmless, they then notified the city of the issue. This left the city liable for closing out the paperwork that the new owners had started. As we looked into the situation, we discovered that a third spill was reported and cleaned up many years ago, but never closed out with DEP. Some work was done to combine the cases, thereby avoiding over another roughly $100,000 in compliance fees for not having closed out the old spill from General Aviation Services. The next complication came when DEP asked that we test our samples for PFAS, and that was about 3 years ago. Low levels were detected, but at that time DEP did not have a standard. They asked that we wait until they had a plan for how to deal with PFAS. Eventually they adopted a standard which prompted us to do more testing to define the scope of the PFAS contamination. At this point, the airport administration decided to cut ties with the LSP that the city has utilized and bring in another firm. And that's where that additional, as Mr. Ailes, we had originally gotten $100,000 transferred from the airport enterprise fund, and that's where an additional amount was agreed to by the airport commission and obligated. We do not believe any petroleum contamination still in the soil is a threat to anything. The PFAS levels are also extremely low and not an issue at this time. There is also no consensus in the industry about how to treat such low levels. Additional sampling, and this goes, I think, to your follow-up question, additional sampling will define the extent of the issue and determine if any cleanup is possible or necessary. The costs incurred are mostly for sampling and then filing necessary paperwork with the DEP. That is expected to remain true for the near future. And that's where I think also Mr. Ailes can't really predict with certainty, what additional costs may come to light. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
All set, Councilor Bone?
Yes, thanks.
Thank you. And I just wanted to mention, Councilor Bone, your first question you prefaced with that it's a learning experience, but for all the new councilors here, never hesitate to ask your questions. It's always important and worthwhile, and helps veteran counselors as well, and certainly members of the public who don't have the opportunity to rehearse all of these issues as well. So thank you for asking your question. Other counselors with questions or comments for Mr. Ailes on this issue? Counselor Rand.
This is more of a comment, and I support the financial mechanism that is happening here. I just wanted to share that because Ms. Bouillon is not here, but I believe she's still with the airport, right? Okay, so I would just recommend reaching out to the airport director directly, Ms. Gloria Bouillon, to just kind of inquire more about the actual project as well.
Mr. Mayor?
So at present, the airport manager's on leave.
Ah,
We're hoping
okay.
she'll be back soon, so in the meantime,
Got it.
we'll field any questions, but we hope that she'll be back soon.
Got it. I was missing her tonight, so I was kind of
Exactly.
thinking
As
we could ask her.
As we do as well.
Okay, got it. That's really good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Counselor Rand. Other questions or comments from counselors? Are there any members of the public who would like to speak in this public hearing? All right. So with that, we'll close this public hearing and refer that back to Committee on Finance and Property, and we will act on that tonight. Thank you, Mr. Ailes, and thank you for your flexibility with all of our juggling of our schedule here. Ms. Kent, let's go to communications from other city officers and boards, please.
Order number 54 from Budget Analyst Jerry Perry for SESD Federal FY21 Annual Treasurer's Report.
I would entertain a motion to receive this and place it on file.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
Order number 55 from Sergeant Hedberry, an amendment to include handicap parking at Lions Park located from 126 Lothrop on the east side, and I'll read that over. Okay. Dear council members, the request is to amend the current city ordinance 270-49 by adding a handicap parking sign and space at Lions Park at the vicinity of 126 Lothrop Street. The space would be on the eastern side of Lothrop Street, adjacent to the playground structure. I have not observed any issues that result in any conflict to public safety or traffic. I would support the placement of a handicap parking sign in this location and respectfully ask the council to make the amendment to the current ordinance. Lothrop Street, east side, across from 126 Lothrop. Very respectfully, Sergeant Michael Henneberry.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Subcommittee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 56 from Councilor Rotundo, an amendment to Chapter 270-37A. Bicycle lanes shall be created in the following locations. This amendment adds a bicycle lane on Elliott Street from Echo Ave to the town of Danvers in both directions. Additionally, the amendment clarifies the direction of existing bicycle lanes and corrects a scrivener's error in the spelling of Sawyer Road. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Todd Rotundo, Councilor Ward 1. And I believe I have to read the ordinance. I don't know if you want to do it now or when we get back from committee.
You can read it now.
I should have done the other one too. In the year 2022, be it attained by the City Council of the City of Beverly as follows. Chapter 270, Section 270-37A, bicycle lanes shall be created in the following locations, is amended as follows. Number 1, adding a location from Echo Avenue to Town of Danvers on Elliott Street. Number 2, inserting a column titled Direction and therein clearly identifying the direction of travel for each identified bicycle lane. Number 3, amending the Hale Street location description to read from Dane Street to Monument Square. And number 4, replacing Sawyer wherever Solar appears. The revised section shall read as follows. 270-37 bicycle lanes added 7-7 2015 by ordinance number 390. A, bicycle lanes should be created in the following locations, amended 11/6/2017 by ordinance number 4082A. The name of the street, Brimble Ave, location from Walnut Avenue to Route 128 ramp before overpass, and the direction is both. Brimble Ave from 128 overpass to Colin Street, both. Note northbound is particularly a protected shared path from Broughton Drive. Budley Ave, entire length, both. Cabot Street, from State DOT marker 499 Cabot Street to Lennox Street, both. Dodge Street from Whitaker Way to the town of Wenham, both. Elliott Street from Cabot Street to Rantoul Street, both. Elliott Street from Echo Avenue to town of Danvers, both. Essex Street, Evelyn Road to Route 128, both. Hale Street from Dane Street to Monument Square, westbound only. Hale Street from Lothrop Street to Boyle Street, both. Old Essex Road, southbound within 200 feet of southbound only. 200 feet of Essex Street, southbound only. Sawyer Road from Bomax Road to Tozer Road, both sides. Tozer Road from Sawyer Road to 55 Tozer Road, both. A bicycle lane shall be defined as a portion of the roadway that has been designated by striping, signing, and pavement markings for the professional and exclusion of bicyclists. Bicyclists, wherever practical, should remain as a designated bicycle lane. All others traffic shall refrain from using designated bicycle lanes. That was a lot.
Thank you. That was a lot, but you did it very well. Councilor Rotendo, this is your order. Is there anything you'd like to say?
I just wanted to thank Assistant Solicitor Old Nixon for helping me. Basically, she did most of the yeoman's work on this. There's a couple of things that I asked for, but she did a lot of the work and the modifications to the order. So I want to thank her for all the work she's done on this.
Thank you very much, Councilor, and thank you, Ms. Old Nixon. Let's refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs, please.
Order number 57. The appointment for Danielle Spang for 16 Mulberry Street to represent the at-large position on the Community Preservation Committee.
I will read the letter. Or I can read the letter. Dear Honorable Council, I hereby appoint, subject to your review and recommendations, Ms. Danielle Spang, 16 Mulberry Street, to serve on the Community Preservation Committee, CPC, in one of the at-large seats on that body. Ms. Spang would be filling a vacancy of an unexpired term. Her term would be effective until October 8th, 2024. Included with this letter are Ms. Spang's letter expressing her interest in this position and a copy of her resume. Very truly yours, Julie R. Flowers, City Council President. And I do want to note that Ms. Spang is here with us tonight, and so our subcommittee will have a chance to meet with her. Thank you for being here, Ms. Spang. And then we'll have a chance to act on this tonight. So let's refer this to the Committee on Legal Affairs, please.
Order number 58 from Council Bowen and Councilor Houseman for rodent infestation in downtown and other neighborhoods.
Thank you. That will be referred jointly to the Committees of Public Services and Finance and Property.
Order number 59 from the City Clerk, a lodging house license for Jalbert Properties LLC for Highland Manor at 7 Highland Avenue.
Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 60. Councilor Houseman, a letter to meet with Finance and Property for discussion on the budget.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property.
Order number 61 from Councilor Houseman, a letter to provide information about the city's accessory dwelling unit working group.
I would entertain a motion to receive that and place it on file.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
Order number 62, Council Houseman, National Grid Cable Transmission Project.
That, thank you. Please refer that jointly to Public Services and Finance and Property.
Order number 63, Assistant City Solicitor Old Nixon, fixed route amphibious sightseeing tour application and process for council review and comment.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 64 from Council Houseman, and this is for rodent control.
Thank you. Please refer that jointly to the Subcommittees on Public Services and Finance and Property. I would entertain a motion to accept a late file in Order 67 from the CPC, the Community Preservation Committee.
Order number 67.
We need to accept it.
So moved.
It's fine. It's okay, Ms. Henry, you just were on a roll.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. Go ahead, Ms. Kent.
Order 67, CPA funding recommendation for out-of-cycle application relative to the anticipation by the city of 2 vacant lots located on Simon Street.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs, and we'll set a public hearing. Communications, applications, and petitions, please.
Order number 65 for the National Grid New England Power Company petition for transmission line franchise.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Public Services to set a public hearing.
And order number 53 from FOTH, Notice of Project Change, EEA number 16145, maps and booklet on file in the city clerk's office.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to receive that and place it on file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. That's it. All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to break for committee, right? Yeah. I had, thank you. Take a break for some committee work. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's have legal affairs stay here on the big screen. Finance and property will be in the committee room this week, and public services on the bench. Thank you very much.
That could be interesting. I'm good. Okay. Okay, call to order Committee on Legal Affairs. Sorry, I already forgot. What time was it? 8:28. Thank you. Okay, so on our agenda today, we really just have two orders that we can vote on. Order number 31, which is a reappointment to, multiple reappointments to serve on the Parking and Traffic Commission for Mr. Jonathan Salt, Sergeant Michael Henneberry, and Captain Ryan Laracy. Do I have any questions from committee members?
I'm good. I'm comfortable with the three there. I've been there for a long time.
Yep, and these are all reappointments, so I don't know, Counselor Sweeney, do you have questions about these reappointments, or have you had opportunity to kind of reach out if you wanted to?
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay, great. I'll just offer that I am really a huge fan of having Mr. Salt, or in general, a member of the Beverly Bicycle Committee serving on the Parking and Traffic Commission. I think it's been really helpful for that commission, just offering a different perspective on who's using the roads and how. So I would accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
You got it?
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 3-0. Okay. And then we have order number 57, which is the appointment of Danielle Spang to represent the at-large position on the Community Preservation Committee. And Danielle is with us today, so if you would like to come up and just, sorry for the awkwardness, but this microphone is on, so you can come closer too, so you're not standing so far away from us. And just kind of introduce yourself if you'd like. And I know you and I support this appointment very much, but if you'd like to share a little bit about your interest, that'd be wonderful.
Sure. So my name is Danielle Spang. I live downtown at 16 Mulberry Street. I've lived there for, trying to do math, since February 2017. And we moved here originally because my husband was commuting into Boston and we wanted to be walkable to the train station, and it's worked out really well. We've really fallen in love with Beverly. And I first got involved a little bit more with what the city's doing this past fall when I started recording minutes for the Beverly Waste Reduction Committee. And I started watching more meetings online. It's been really helpful that they're virtual and that BevCam helps out with those. So that's how I first got interested in it. And then when I heard about this opening, I was interested in helping with the Community Preservation Committee because I care a lot about affordable housing, making sure that the historical buildings stay in good repair, and also open space and recreation. So I have 2 young children, and I care about it from both their perspective and ourselves. Like my husband and I like to use the outdoor space. And so I think it's a really cool thing that the city does to be able to offer these funds. And I'd like to help out any way that I can. Working-wise, I am a licensed attorney. I'm not practicing right now. I haven't been practicing since my daughter was born, but I did mostly consumer rights law before. I have not done any kind of municipal government, but I enjoy doing research and legal research and writing. So it's been nice it would be nice to use my skills in that way. And I just have time to volunteer now that my kids are older. But I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
That's great. Any questions from the committee?
Not a question, just a comment. I just want to say welcome. It's great to have you. It's nice to see you being new to the city, and, at 5 years, it's great to see that you immediately wanted to step in, so that's good. Having a young family in the community preservation is a great means of getting things done, and there is a lot of research on these particular projects, so it's nice to see that you have an enthusiasm towards that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what, working with you in the future, but welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Counselor Sweeney, any
I'm
questions?
trying to conjure up some questions, but I mean, I think it's, as you well know, this committee has been very active in making recommendations to the city council on behalf of the city as a whole for use of CPA funding, which is definitely, a benefit to the city of Beverly to have that resource, which is still fairly recent, this creation of the Community Preservation Act. So it's a really unique way for citizens like yourself with an interest in open space, recreation, some of the other historic preservation, the areas of the committee focus to get involved and make recommendations on tangible projects for the city to undertake. I guess maybe one question I have, and you may not have an answer to it, which is completely fine, but are there any potential projects that you may have thought about throughout the application project or process that you would like to see the committee take a look at?
I don't have new projects in mind, but I have been following this round of funding, so I was really happy to see the Marine Farm. I think that's an awesome investment for the city. I support the pocket parks. I'm also really pumped about the Rotaries application to fix the, what's it called?
Gazebo?
Gazebo, yes, and the Beverly Common. But yeah, and I also, I am in favor of like the GAR project, and I don't know, I feel like I'm in favor of most of all of them.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. They've definitely been active, a lot of good projects for the city.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank
And
you.
Anchor Point too, I think that's going on right now too. I've been trying to watch them.
Well, I'm super glad that you want to get even more involved with the city. I think my work with you on the Civic Association and with rodents and past CPA projects and things like that, you definitely are an asset that we're lucky to have. So thank you for stepping up, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of you. So do you have any questions for us?
Nope.
No. Okay, and
But feel free to reach out anytime.
yeah, absolutely. I would accept a motion to approve order number 57.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes 3-0. And Ms. Spang, if you would like to, there'll be an opportunity for you to kind of like connect with the whole council as well if you're able to stay a little
Yeah,
bit
that's fine.
longer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's all that we actually are taking action on this week. I think we'll need to set a time for, are we committee of the whole yet? Yeah, okay, call to order committee of the whole. I didn't need to do that, but I think it was fun. So I think we'll need to set a time for a separate legal affairs committee meeting. I know Ms. Mcpherson has submitted the amphibious application and process to amphibious vehicle, sorry, to us. I think, for me anyway, I'm thinking that requires a little more than just a few minutes in between council work. So we'll work with Ms. Kent and Ms. Dixon to set a time for that. And with that, unless there are any questions from the committee?
Nope.
No? Okay, so I would motion to,
Just one quick question,
Sure.
Madam Chair. So the other items that were referred to legal affairs about the parking space at Lions Park, then I think it was another,
so actually, we do need to set a public hearing though for that. Let me see. We don't, for the Simons.
It just has to be in the paper and then do final passage.
Oh,
For Simon Street lots. So order number 67,
Oh, yes.
we need a public hearing to set a public hearing for that, correct? Okay, do we have a time?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
8:40 p.m.
okay, 8:40 PM, and that's on March 7. Okay, so I would accept a motion to set a public hearing for order number 67 on March 7th at 8:40 PM.
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, motion passes 3-0. Thank you for bringing that up, Counselor Sweeney. And then order number 55 for the handicap parking, that is a matter, Ms. Kent, I'm sorry to bother you, but order number 55, is that something we have to take a vote on? We can't vote on that today?
I'm sorry.
Order number 55, the handicap parking on Lothrop Street?
No, it has to have final passage after it goes in the, Lothrop Street, yes.
Yeah, so it needs to be posted before it's voted on? Or, okay.
This is final passage, it should be on there, I can't recall what date it is.
Let's see. Order number 55. So this is just being received this week. let's see, hold on. So this has to be adopted before it can be. This has to be adopted before it can be, okay, so we can vote on this today. Okay, all right, let's do that then. Okay, order number 55, which is an ordinance amending parking, and so this would be including adding a handicap space to the east side of 126 Lothrop Street. Any questions? Yeah.
I don't believe you can vote tonight because it needs final passage on March 7th. You can vote. The first reading is tonight.
But don't we have to accept it?
No, you just have to, on March 7th, you'll do that.
Okay,
Yeah, so first reading was tonight.
okay.
So final passage will be March 7th, after it's in the paper.
I am being very confused. So I thought when we amend an order that we have to actually, we have to adopt the amendment
Do you have any,
before it's, can be part of the city's ordinances.
I'm not familiar with that. I just
Okay.
know that we have a final, a first reading and then a final passage 2 weeks after it's been in the newspaper.
Okay, because we've already adopted this. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
just
got it,
amendment, yeah.
got it, okay.
Thank
you.
No, sure. Order 67 actually is a different time. It's, Brian Ailes just let me know that we had already done one for that, so it's at actually 8:50 PM.
8:50.
I have,
That's okay. We're,
I'm sorry.
nope, don't be.
There was a lot of them.
Okay,
if you
so
can just,
can we just redo that vote?
So what did, Council President, what did you guys say?
We motioned to reconsider our
Yeah.
vote and amend it,
I think we amended.
yeah.
Okay, so I would accept a motion to amend our vote on order number 67 to change the Simon Street lots, public hearing to March 7th at 8:50 PM.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, got it. So we fixed our mistake.
Thank you.
Anything else that we have left out or included erroneously?
One question, I think it's probably the same as the process for order number 55, but for order number 56, is that similarly one that we can't act on in the subcommittee meeting and we need to wait for 2 weeks from now? On the bike lane?
That's another order that has to go through past, the first reading was tonight, then it
Okay.
goes in the paper, then it's a final passage.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, I think that covers it.
Okay.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, so I think we got all the votes that we needed then. All right, now I would accept a motion to adjourn committee of the whole.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye, okay, and I would accept a motion to adjourn committee of legal affairs.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
42.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, 8:42. for.
All right, we're back.
Just so I know.
Call to order the city council so that we can have reports from committees.
Order number 32, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom was referred the matter regarding a transfer from the Airport Enterprise Fund balance of $175,000 to fund continuation work with the testing and monitoring of property at the airport, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow report as follows. Recommend the council approve the request.
Questions or comments? Sorry. I don't know what I was waiting for. Questions or comments? The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
Order number 47, the Committee on Finance and Property have considered said matter and beg leave to report as follows. A transfer of $70,920 from the Waterway Improvement Fund. The transfer consists of $35,000 to support the CADC Cell Feasibility Study Grant, $32,800 to support the Hoist Pier Construction Grant, and $3,120 to support the Glover Wharf Float Feasibility Study Grant. Recommend that we set a public hearing for March 7th at 7:50 p.m.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the, setting a public hearing.
I think we just set the public
I
hearing.
feel like I was doing so well the first half of this meeting. Motion to set a public hearing for March 7th at 7:50 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. So we'll have a public hearing March 7th at 7:50 on Order 47.
Order number 48, the Committee on Finance and Property have considered said matter to beg leave to follows. A transfer of $642,085 from the city's certified free cash balance into the Capital Fund 598 and to rescind the previously authorized loan. Order number 44-2021 of $750,000 from replacement of the turf field at the high school. And we vote to set a public hearing 3/7 at 8:10 p.m.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Entertain a motion to set that public hearing March 7th at 8:10.
Second. Sorry.
You both are a good duo tonight.
It was simultaneous.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. So we'll set that public hearing for March 7th at 8:10 p.m.
Order number 49 from the Committee on Finance and Property have considered said matter and beg leave to follows. A transfer of $1,111,519 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed in the city's stabilization fund, and transfer of $224,304 from the city's free cash balance to be placed in the OPEB trust. Transfer totals request totaling $1,335,823. Recommend that they set a public hearing on March 7th at 8:20 p.m.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments on that one? I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing March 7th, 8:20 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0, and so we'll set that public hearing March 7th, 8:20 p.m. on Order 49.
Order number 50, the Committee on Finance and Property have considered said matter and beg leave to report as follows. A transfer of the city's free cash balance in the amount of $1,500,000 to be placed in the City Hall Rehabilitation Capital Project Fund. Requested to set a public hearing on March 7th at 8:30 PM.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing for March 7th at 8:30 PM.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. So we'll set that public hearing March 7th at 8:30 PM on order number 50.
A late file on number 66. A purchase of 2 real estate parcels located on Simon Street that are currently owned by the Beverly Housing Authority. It is the city's intent to purchase. The purchase price of 2 parcels combined is $400,000, and the city anticipates incurring an additional $125,000 cost to survey and improve upon the lots. They request to set a public hearing on 3/7 at 8:40 PM.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to set that public hearing for March 7th at 8:40 PM.
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. That'll be a public hearing, March 7th, 8:40 PM on order 66.
Order number 31, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom was referred the matter regarding a reappointment to serve on Parking and Traffic Commission, Mr. Jonathan Salt, Sergeant Michael Henneberry, and Captain Brian Larossi. Recommend the council approve the reappointments.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
Order number 57, the Committee on Legal Affairs have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. To wit, an appointment Danielle Spang, 16 Mulberry Street, to represent the at-large position on the Community Preservation Committee. Recommend the council approve the appointment.
Thank you. And Ms. Spang is here with us. Ms. Spang, I know you had a chance to talk with the counselors on legal affairs, but if you'd like to come to the podium and just say a little bit about your interest in serving on the committee.
Hi, my name is Danielle Spang. I'm at 16 Mulberry Street in downtown Beverly. I am a licensed attorney, but I'm not currently practicing. I've been at home with my children since my daughter was born about 6 years ago. I've been in Beverly for 5 years. We first moved here because we have one car and my husband was commuting into Boston. So we wanted to live somewhere near the T. But since being here, we've really fallen in love with Beverly, the community, and everything that it has to offer. So we plan to stay here forever. And I'm interested in the CPC. I didn't know about it before last fall. I first learned about it when I started paying attention more to the city meetings as my kids are getting older. And I think it's a really great opportunity for the city to be able to provide a lot of spaces for people to play and live and enjoy the open space and nature, and to restore historic buildings. So yeah, I would like to help out, and I enjoy researching. It's something that I've missed from not working. So I enjoy legal research and writing, and am happy to use my time. Most of my free time's in the evenings, but I have a lot of it, so.
Thank you very much, Ms. Spang. Questions or comments from counselors? Thank you. The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion carries 7-0. And thank you again, Ms. Spang, for being with us and for having some patience with our agenda tonight. I know you were here waiting for a while. And I do want to say thank you not only to Ms. Spang for her interest in this vacancy on the CPC, but we did receive a few other letters of interest, all from wonderful, qualified, excited to serve residents of our city. So thank you to everybody who expressed interest. And I did pass on people's names and resumes to the mayor because, of course, there's other boards and commissions in the city that need great people to serve. So thank you to everybody who expressed interest, and thank you again, Ms. Spang, and we'll look forward to having you as part of our CPC. Thank you.
Good.
Yes.
Order number 67 from the CPA funding recommendation for out-of-cycle application relative to the anticipation by the city of 2 vacant lots located on Simon Street. Have considered said matter and request a public hearing on 3/7 at 8:50 PM.
Thank you. Is there a motion to set that public hearing for March 7th at 8:50 PM?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0. So we'll set that public hearing for our next meeting, March 7th at 8:50 PM on Order 67.
Order 30, the Committee on Public Services, to whom was referred the matter regarding a reappointment to serve on the Beverly Golf and Tennis Commission, Mr. Martin Lawler. Recommend the council approve the reappointment.
Questions or comments? Ms. Counselor Bowen.
Thank you. Just a brief comment on this one. It is one of the boards that has vacancies. So while we're, happy to recommend reappointing a member who has served and served well, do want to highlight that that's one of the resources in the city that, members of the community can help put to the best use by serving on that board. And so, the process is to reach out to the mayor's office with letters of interest. So I would encourage anyone to follow up on that one.
Thank you very much, Counselor Bowen. It's always good and important to remind folks that there are these vacancies on boards and committees and commissions, and the city values and works best when we have more voices involved. The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
Order number 44, the Committee on Public Services have considered said matter and beg leave to follows. National Grid petition for Plan 304-52436 in according with the plan marked Bayview Ave. Recommend the petition be granted.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this one? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 7-0.
Order number 52, the Committee on Public Services have considered said matter and beg leave to follows to the 2022 member rate schedule for the Beverly Golf and Tennis Commission. Recommend the council approve the request.
Thank you. Questions or comments on this one? Great. The question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and the adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
And the Committee on Public Services have considered said matter and beg leave to follows. National Grid New England Power Company petition for transmission line franchise to set a public hearing on March 21st, 2022 at 8 PM.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to set that public hearing for our March 21st meeting at 8 PM?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Motion carries 7-0. So we'll set that public hearing for March 21st at 8 PM. March 7th has quite a few public hearings already happening. So it makes sense, I think, to hold that one over to the next week so that we can have fuller conversation.
That's all I got.
All right. Thank you very much. That was a big agenda, and I think everyone did a great job working our way through it. Are there any final thoughts or comments? Counselor Bowen.
Thank you. I had one kind of announcement. Sorry, am I ruining your time yet?
No, it's perfect.
Okay, good.
Oh, you're perfect.
As long as I'm helping someone.
Is there some kind of an over-under?
I'll speak very slowly. Yes. No, I just wanted to share, I know many of us have probably seen there have been recent acts of anti-Semitism in neighboring communities, at schools, directed at Salem's Board of Health, in other ways. So wanted to share an invitation that I came across for municipal leaders specifically. And it's a program called 2 Steps Forward Against Anti-Semitism. And it's hosted by the Lapin Foundation's Teen Anti-Semitism Task Force and some other partners. And it'll be on Zoom on Monday, March 28th from 1 to 2 p.m. Peabody's mayor is one of the hosts, and all municipal leaders are invited. So I've signed up and looking forward to it and hope others might be able to attend.
Thank you very much, Counselor Bowen. And if counselors want more information on how to get connected, I assume they can talk with you about that?
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts from counselors? Well, as we just heard, we have our next regular city council meeting on March 7th. We have a number of public hearings, many of them coming from some of the orders that came in tonight regarding transfers of free cash. So that will be a good one for folks in the city to join us or to be watching and to come and participate in a public hearing if you are so inclined. We also will have a public hearing on March 21st at our regular city council meeting on National Grid's proposed power line project. And so, again, encourage members of the public, if they are so inclined, to come and join us for that, or to watch us on BevCam. And I did also want to mention, Counselor Feldman and Counselor Hausman are traveling, and so are not able to be with us tonight. That's why they're not here. And Counselor Rand, I believe yesterday was your birthday. So happy birthday.
Yes, thank you.
Happy birthday.
you.
With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
What a surprise. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're adjourned, everyone.